Hey there, welcome to the External Force podcast where ideas gain momentum. And I am so glad to have you here listening right now. Now, my name is Moses Iduru, and this is episode 0. Yeah, the very beginning, the foundation. And honestly, this isn't just an episode, it is a story, my story, and maybe yours too, right? So, I've always been the kind of person who had a lot of ideas. I mean, let's be real. How many of us have plans, big ones at that? And I mean, a kind of write a book kind of plans, start a business kind of plans, or maybe even change the world kind of plans, right? Many of us, we have big dreamers that way, and I am one of them, right? So for me, every now and then, like every new year, every new quarter, every birthday, I'll sit down and write them all out. The dreams, the goals, the visions, and the whole thing, right? But here's the truth. I never really started any of them, right? Even though once I started, I stopped along the way, right? So it's not that I did not care, and it is not that I wasn't passionate enough. It is not that I wasn't serious. I just stopped at the idea phase, right? So I was always planning, I was always dreaming, but I never actually moved. I was never actually moving. So if you are anything like me, I know you get it. Maybe it is school, maybe it's fear, maybe it's procrastination, or maybe just life being life, right? But somehow the things we know we're meant to do, we just sit there in our they just sit there in our mind, in our journals maybe, and in our hearts. They're just there waiting, right? So I remember specifically I had this podcast idea years ago, not just an idea to talk, but the deep feeling that I had something to say, right? So that I had a voice that could change things, that could encourage people, maybe even challenge them. But I did not move. I kept saying maybe when I get into the university, I'll start, or when I figure out how to record better, I'll start, or maybe when life slows down a little bit for me, I'll start, right? So I had every reason, but there was no momentum. And then in one of my regular quiet moments, while just surfing and making some research on the internet, I stumbled upon the Newton's first law of motion, right? So science stuff. And the first law of motion says an object at rest will remain at rest unless acted upon by an external force. And then I paused. You know, that feeling you get when something hits you deep in your spirit, right? That was it. Right there, the Holy Spirit whispered in my ears, "This is you, Moses. This is you." All these dreams, all these potentials, it's been resting. And it's not just because you're lazy, it's not because you are not qualified, it's not because the reason basically is that I have lacked the external force, right? So that force, that spark, I mean, that divine push was in. I mean, it was God. God had been trying to nudge me forward for so long, but I kept waiting for the perfect moment. And that moment it wasn't in the future, it was right then at that time. So that was just the moment when I got the name, the External Force Podcast. It just dropped in my spirit at that moment. Now, this isn't just a podcast about productivity or ideas. It isn't about your regular things, right? It's about what happens when something or someone finally pushes you forward. Now, when the invisible things starts to move the visible things. So when the divine nudge becomes the loud years, right? So I did something. I picked up my laptop. Yeah, I didn't have a fancy mic, no studio. It was just me talking. So I recorded a raw version of this, and then I froze again because why? Fear came back. I had doubts, and I left the audio untouched for weeks, maybe even months. And then I remembered while just going around, while just checking around in my laptop, and I just found the audio once again. And one thing I remembered is that obedience doesn't wait for the perfect conditions, it just moves, right? So I went back, right, edited the audio, recorded some more, and just posted it. Now, that small act of courage, that was my external force. Now, It wasn't dramatic, it wasn't viral, it wasn't anything of sort. It was a movement, right? That was all that matters. That was all that matters. So here we are, you and me, listening, talking, and maybe you've had an idea on your mind, on your heart for so long. Maybe you felt stuck in school, in your creative process, or maybe in life generally, or maybe you've been waiting for the perfect push. Well, I'm here to announce to you that this is it. This is your external force moment, right? This podcast is a space where we talk about momentum, and I mean real momentum, not just motivation that feeds in a day, but momentum that is powered by truth, discipline, creativity, and faith. Now, we'll bring stories, we'll bring conversations with people just like you and me, folks who were stuck and then they moved. They got their push, right? So, teens discovering purpose, adults rediscovering passions, creatives figuring out their voices, right? And yes, we'll also talk about the Holy Spirit. Yes, because He is the ultimate force behind any lasting movement in our lives. Now, this isn't a podcast to impress you, right? This is a podcast to ignite you. So, once again, welcome to the External Force Podcast, where your ideas don't just sit around anymore, where your purpose gets a push, and where your voice finally gets heard. I am Moses Iduru. Let us gain momentum together. See you in episode 1. Adios.